Imagine this. A thief breaks into a billionaire's mansion in the dead of night. He finds money, he finds riches. But just as he's about to escape, something unimaginable happens. The billionaire collapses, struggling to breathe, convulsing on the floor. Now the thief faces an impossible choice. Should he run with the money or risk everything to save the very man he came to rob? This is a story filled with suspense, lessons, and second chances that will leave you speechless. But before we dive in, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you're new here, kindly subscribe and join us on this unforgettable journey of love, redemption, and life-changing lessons. Let's get into it. The night hung heavy over the small mud house at the edge of Umuiki village. The moon was veiled in clouds, and the rustle of palm trees outside whispered like mournful spirits. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of herbs and sweat, the sharp sting of poverty mixing with the deeper stench of sickness. Papa Chakwudi lay on a bamboo bed covered with a thin, worn mat. His once strong body, the body that had labored for years under the sun, tilling stubborn soil, was now reduced to bones covered by loose skin. Each ragged cough tore through his chest, echoing like thunder in the silence of the night. His breath came in shallow bursts, his ribs rising and falling with desperate effort. Beside him knelt Joseph, his only son, just 17, with the fire of youth in his heart, but the fear of loss etched into his face. His trembling hands held a damp rag as he wiped sweat from his father's forehead. Tears glistened in his eyes, but he forced himself not to cry out loud. He had to be strong for Papa, for Mama, for himself. In the corner of the dim room lit by a flickering kerosene lantern, Mama wept silently. She pressed her wrapper to her mouth to muffle her sobs, her shoulders shaking as she watched the man she had loved for over 2 decades waste away before her eyes. She had tried every herbal mixture, begged distant relatives for help, even borrowed money to take him to a nearby clinic. But nothing worked. The sickness, what the villagers called the farmer's curse, had eaten him from the inside. Joseph, Papa's voice cracked like dry wood as he beckoned weakly with his hand. Joseph quickly leaned forward, clutching his father's fragile fingers. To his shock, the grip still held surprising strength, the strength of a man clinging to his last purpose. "Joseph, my son, listen well," Papa rasped, his chest heaving. Promise me you will take care of your mother, no matter what. Never abandon her." Joseph's tears spilled freely now, falling onto his father's rough hands. "Papa, don't talk like this. You'll get better. God will heal you." His voice cracked under the weight of denial, but Papa Chakwudi only gave a faint, knowing smile. He had seen too many seasons, fought too many battles with the earth and fate. He knew his time had come. "Life is not fair, my son," he whispered. "I wanted to see you become a man, but it seems the journey ends for me here. You must be strong. Don't let poverty crush your spirit. Don't let people mock you into giving up." Joseph sobbed, gripping his father's hand tighter. "I promise, Papa. I swear with my life. I'll take care of Mama. I'll protect her. I'll make you proud." A faint spark lit up in the old man's tired eyes. His cracked lips curved into a frail smile. Good, my son. Joseph the dreamer, don't let life kill your dream. One day the world will remember your name." Then, with one last sigh, his eyes glazed over. His hands slipped from Joseph's grip. His chest rose once more, then stilled forever. The silence that followed was deafening. Mama's wail broke the night, raw and heart-wrenching, as she collapsed beside her husband's lifeless body. Joseph sat frozen, staring at his father's face. A cold weight pressed into his chest, the weight of a promise too heavy for a boy, yet one he would carry into manhood. That night, Joseph buried not just his father, but his childhood. In the days that followed, the neighbors came and went, offering empty words of comfort. But poverty remained. Their farmland yielded little, debts piled high, and hunger gnawed at them daily. Yet through every hardship, Joseph carried his father's last words in his heart. Like a brand burned into his soul, he would protect his mother. He would dream, no matter how much the world mocked him, even if the road to that dream was paved with suffering. The years after his father's death hardened Joseph in ways no young man should ever know. By the time he turned 22, he was no longer a boy, but a weary soul trapped in the body of a strong young man. His shoulders were broad from years of pushing a rusty wheelbarrow under the scorching sun of Umuika Market. His palms thick with calluses that told stories of struggle. Each dawn began the same. He would wake to the crow of the village rooster, wash his face in a rusty bowl of water fetched the night before, and eat a handful of gararas if there was any left. Then he would wheel his empty barrow to the bustling market, waiting for customers who needed heavy loads carried. Some days he earned enough to buy food for himself and his mother. Other days, he returned home with only dust on his slippers and shame in his heart. Yet, in the midst of hardship, there was something different about Joseph. His eyes carried a strange fire, a hunger for something greater than the life that chained him. Whenever he rested beneath the old mango tree at the edge of the market, his favorite spot where the breeze cooled his tired body, he would whisper dreams aloud, dreams too big for the ears that mocked him. "Mama," he would say when he got home after the day's toil, sitting beside her on the wooden bench outside their mud hut, "one day I'll be a millionaire. I'll build you a house with shining glass windows, a house people will admire from afar. And I'll buy you clothes so fine that the women in this village will envy you. They won't call me Joseph the Dreamer anymore. They'll call me Joseph the Great." His mother's frail hands, now veined and trembling from years of struggle, would reach out to stroke his cheek. Her tired eyes, though clouded with age and sickness, would sparkle with faith. "My son," she always replied gently, "dreams are like seeds. If you keep watering them with hard work, faith, and honesty, one day God himself will make them grow into a harvest so large you won't believe it. Don't stop dreaming." Her words were a balm to his wounded pride, for the world around him was cruel. At the market, fellow traders often mocked him. "Millionaire? You?" they jeered. "Look at your slippers. They are so torn we can see your toes smiling at us. Go and fix your barrow before you talk of riches." Others laughed openly, clapping him on the back in false amusement. "Joseph the Dreamer. That should be your name. Dream, dream, dream until hunger wakes you." Each insult pierced him like a spear. He would force a weak smile, sometimes walk away in silence, sometimes reply with dignity. But deep down, their words hurt. Still, when he returned home, his mother's voice restored his courage. He held on to her belief as though it were a rope keeping him from drowning in an ocean of hopelessness. But fate was not done testing him. One evening, after returning from the market, he found his mother coughing violently, her frail body doubled over on their bamboo bed. The sound sent shivers down his spine. It was the same kind of cough that had haunted his father until death claimed him. "Mama!" Joseph rushed to her side, his heart pounding. He held her shoulders, fear flooding his veins. She tried to wave him off, forcing a weak smile. "Don't worry, my son. It's just the weather. It will pass." But Joseph knew better. He had seen this sickness before, and it had stolen the life of the man he loved most. The following days became a nightmare. He sold his few belongings, his only spare shirt, his small transistor radio, even the wheelbarrow that was his only source of income, just to buy medicine from the local chemist. He borrowed from neighbors, begged old friends, and even went to moneylenders who chased him away with harsh words. Still, the sickness worsened. His mother's once warm skin turned clammy, her lips cracked, and her breath grew shallow at night. Many times Joseph sat by her bedside, watching her chest rise and fall, terrified it would stop at any moment. Desperation began to wrap its cruel fingers around his neck. Without the barrow, he had no work. Without work, there was no food. And without money, his mother's medicine ran out too quickly. Each time she coughed, he felt as though his heart was being ripped from his chest. "Papa," he whispered to himself in the darkness one night, clutching the small wooden cross his father had carved before his death. "I promised you. I swore I would take care of Mama. But how can I do it when life itself fights me? God, what do I do? What do I do?" His tears fell silently as his mother slept, her fragile breathing filling the tiny room. It was then, in his moment of despair, that Joseph's dreams began to take on a desperate edge. Before, he had dreamed of becoming rich through hard work and God's blessing. But now, with his mother slipping away, the line between right and wrong blurred in his mind. He could not, he would not, watch her die the way his father had. It was the beginning of a dangerous path, one that would test the weight of his father's promise against the unbearable hand of fate. The sky that night was thick with darkness, a moonless expanse where even the stars seemed to hide. The dusty road leading to Joseph's hut was silent, save for the distant croak of frogs and the chirping of crickets. Joseph sat at the roadside, his back against a termite-ridden tree stump, his head buried in his palms. His clothes clung to his damp skin from sweat and tears. He had spent the day moving from one person to another, begging for help, but every door had closed in his face. His mother's cough echoed in his memory like rolling thunder. Each gasp, each wheeze replayed in his mind, tormenting him. It wasn't just the sound of illness, it was the sound of death creeping closer. He had heard it before, from his father. He knew what it meant. Joseph whispered to himself, his voice broken. "I promised you, Papa. I swore I'd protect her. But how can I protect her when no one will help me? Why does life hate us this much?" His voice dissolved into silence, swallowed by the empty night. As he lifted his head, wiping his tears with the back of his hand, a strange flicker of light caught his eye. It came from an abandoned building a few yards away. The old structure had once been a carpenter's workshop, but it now stood roofless and broken, a home for rats and shadows. Tonight, however, a dim lantern glowed inside, its trembling flame moving like a secret whisper. Curiosity and unease pulled Joseph to his feet. He crept closer, his bare feet brushing the dust softly, his heart beating louder with every step. When he reached the cracked wall, he pressed his eye against a hole in the mud bricks. What he saw froze his breath. Two men sat on wooden crates, their faces hard and dangerous, their eyes darting like predators. Before them lay a rickety table, and on it, bundles of Naira notes stacked like towers. The bills looked new, crisp, and endless. Joseph's chest tightened. He had never seen that much money in his life. His mind spun with dizzy thoughts. Medicine, food, clothes for his mother. All their problems could vanish with just one bundle. Then his gaze shifted, and his heart stopped. Beside the table, carelessly dropped near the corner, lay a pistol. Cold, black, silent. It seemed to glow under the lantern light, whispering danger. Joseph's knees trembled, his breath caught in his throat. He had never been this close to a gun before. To him, guns were not just weapons. They were symbols of death, things he had only heard of in stories of robbers and soldiers. The men's voices carried through the silence. "That was a good run," one said, licking his thumb as he counted. "The fools didn't even fight back. Tomorrow, we strike again. There's a big house along the express road." The other laughed, stuffing notes into a sack. "Let's enjoy tonight first. We'll hide the tools here. Nobody comes near this place." Joseph pressed his body closer to the wall, holding his breath. His heart hammered so hard he feared they would hear it. After what seemed like hours, the men stood. They shoved the remaining money into a bag, muttering about their next target. Before leaving, one of them bent down, lifted the pistol, and tucked it into a crack in the corner wall. "This is safe enough," the man said. "We'll come back for it." With that, they blew out the lantern and disappeared into the night. Their footsteps faded, leaving only silence, and Joseph's pounding heartbeat. He stood frozen in the shadows, torn between fear and temptation. His mind screamed at him, "Run, Joseph. Forget what you saw. Run home." But another voice rose, stronger, sharper. The memory of his mother's shallow breathing, the sound of her cough tearing her body apart, the memory of his father's last words, "Take care of your mother, no matter what." Joseph's hands shook violently as he slipped into the building. The darkness pressed around him, heavy and suffocating. His fingers brushed the cold metal of the pistol. He hesitated, trembling, his chest heaving as if the weapon itself breathed against him. He knew this was a line. Once crossed, he could never go back. He could feel his father's voice inside him, warning and pleading. But then he pictured his mother's pale face, her lips cracking as she whispered through pain, "Don't worry, my son. It will pass." Something stronger than fear drove him. With a sharp breath, Joseph snatched the gun, clutching it tight. His heart pounded so violently he thought it would burst from his chest. Without waiting another second, he bolted from the building, his legs carrying him faster than he had ever run. By the time he reached his one-room hut, he was drenched in sweat, his hands shaking uncontrollably. He shoved the pistol under his bed and collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. That night, he could not sleep. The sound of his mother's coughing filled the room, mixing with the phantom echoes of the robber's laughter. He turned and tossed, staring into the darkness. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the pistol glowing beneath his bed, waiting, whispering. "Why, God," he cried silently, covering his face. "Why must I lose her like Papa? What sin did I commit to deserve this life?" For days he lived in torment. He could not bring himself to touch the gun again, yet he could not ignore its presence. He prayed for strength. He wept until his eyes were swollen. He even cursed fate itself. But nothing changed. His mother grew weaker, and despair tightened its grip on him like a noose. Then one afternoon, as he lingered by a small shop to buy soap, he overheard the gossip of women chattering. One of them, a cook who worked for Chief Amadi, the billionaire of Umuike, spoke with careless pride. "That man has money stacked in his house like yams in a barn," she said, her voice dripping with envy. "I tell you, every drawer, every room, money everywhere. Even his children abroad don't know how much he has." Joseph's heart skipped a beat. The words struck him like lightning. Chief Amadi, a billionaire, money lying in his house. As he walked home that evening, his steps felt heavy. His mind raced with wild thoughts. He remembered the pistol under his bed, the bundles of cash he had seen in the robber's den, the endless bills at Chief Amadi's mansion. A terrible idea began to grow in his heart, one he had once sworn he would never consider. What if this gun is the only chance to keep my promise? The night was restless inside Joseph's small hut. He paced the room like a caged animal, his bare feet dragging across the cracked floor. His mother lay on the bamboo bed, her breathing shallow, her frail chest rising and falling as though each breath might be her last. Every cough she let out struck him like a hammer to the heart, each sound louder than thunder in his ears. Joseph pressed both hands against his head. The weight of desperation pressed on him, crushing the last remnants of his resistance. The pistol under his bed seemed to whisper, calling him. Finally, with trembling hands, he bent down and pulled it out. The cold metal sent a shiver racing through him. He lifted it slowly, staring at it as though it were alive. "Forgive me, Mama," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Forgive me, Papa. I can't lose her like I lost you. I must try, even if it costs me everything." He tucked the pistol beneath his shirt, his heart pounding. Tonight he was no longer Joseph the dreamer. He was Joseph the desperate son. The mansion of Chief Amadi loomed ahead like a fortress, grand and intimidating, lit with golden floodlights that stretched across the expansive compound. The tall iron gate stood closed, guarded by men who leaned lazily on their rifles, their faces bored but alert. Joseph's breath quickened as he watched them from the shadows of a nearby tree. He knew the front entrance was impossible. Circling to the back, he found a section of the fence where the cement wall was cracked, vines creeping along its edge. His palms sweated as he gripped the rough surface. With a deep breath, he climbed, his muscles straining until he landed on the other side, his heart racing wildly. The back of the mansion was quieter, eerily so. A large window on the ground floor stood slightly ajar, its curtains swaying gently in the breeze. Joseph crouched low, every nerve in his body alive with fear, and slipped through the opening like a shadow. Inside, the house was a world he had never known. His bare feet sank into thick Persian rugs. Golden curtains draped across tall windows. Marble floors gleamed under the soft light of chandeliers. The faint scent of imported cologne lingered in the air, mingled with the polish of expensive wood. It was wealth made tangible, wealth that mocked his poverty. Joseph moved quietly, his heart pounding in his ears. He opened drawers with shaking hands, searching, praying. In the master bedroom, his eyes widened as he stumbled upon bundles of crisp dollar bills stacked neatly in a drawer. His breath caught. "God, Mama will live," he whispered, his hands trembling as he grabbed a few bundles. About $5,000. He clutched them to his chest, his heart racing with a strange mix of triumph and fear. But then, a sound, a groan, deep and guttural, cut through the silence. Joseph spun around, his blood running cold. On the floor beside the bed lay an old man, his body convulsing violently. His face had turned purple, his lips quivering, his hands clawing weakly at the air. It was Chief Ahmadi himself. Joseph's eyes widened in shock. He had seen men convulse before. He recognized the signs of an asthma attack. The billionaire's inhaler lay on the floor, just beyond his reach, glinting faintly under the light. Joseph froze. His mind screamed at him, "Run, Joseph! Run with the money! This is your chance!" But then, another voice echoed inside him, his father's voice etched deep into his soul. "Promise me you will take care of your mother. Don't let life kill your dream. Don't lose your soul, my son." His hands shook. His breath came in ragged gasps. Tears blurred his vision. He looked at the money in his hands, then at the dying man gasping for air. His heart twisted in torment. "No," Joseph whispered. "Not like this. Not like this." With trembling hands, he dropped the bundles of money back onto the floor. The pistol clattered as he threw it aside. He fell to his knees, crawling toward the inhaler. Grabbing it, he rushed to Chief Ahmadi's side, lifting the man's head gently. "Hold on, sir," Joseph whispered desperately. "Please, hold on." He pressed the inhaler to the billionaire's lips, pressing down on the canister. A soft hiss filled the air, and slowly, gradually, Chief Ahmadi's chest began to rise more steadily. His color returned, his convulsions eased, and after a few painful moments, his breathing steadied into slow, wheezing gasps. Joseph exhaled in relief, his own tears streaming down his face. For the first time in his life, he had held the power to let a man live, and he had chosen life. But his relief was short-lived. The bedroom door burst open with a thunderous crash. Armed security men stormed in, rifles raised, their eyes widening at the sight. "Drop it!" one of them shouted, pointing at Joseph. Joseph's hands shot into the air, but it was too late. Their eyes had already taken in the incriminating scene. The money scattered on the floor, the pistol lying nearby. Joseph crouched beside the weakened billionaire. "No, please," Joseph cried, his voice desperate. I was helping him." They didn't listen. Rough hands seized him, yanking him to his feet. Cold metal cuffs snapped around his wrists. Chief Ahmadi, still weak and gasping, tried to speak, but his voice was too faint. The guards dragged Joseph away as he struggled, pleading, "Please, listen to me. I didn't come to kill him. I saved him. Please," but his cries echoed uselessly against the marble walls. Within minutes, Joseph found himself shoved into the back of a van, the weight of iron cuffs on his wrists, his dreams shattered, his soul sinking into despair. As the van roared away into the night, Joseph pressed his forehead to the cold bars of the window. He had lost everything, his freedom, his dignity, and perhaps the chance to save his mother. His father's promise felt heavier than ever, like chains wrapped around his heart. For Joseph, the lion's den had swallowed him whole. The prison cell was a tomb of forgotten souls. Dampness clung to the cracked walls, and the stench of sweat, urine, and hopelessness filled the air. Rats scurried in the shadows, and the flickering light bulb above buzzed like a dying insect. Joseph sat in the corner, knees drawn to his chest, his forehead pressed hard against them. The cold iron bars seemed to mock him. He had thought himself brave enough to face danger, yet here he was, caged like an animal, stripped of dignity, stripped of hope. His heart was shattered. His thoughts returned again and again to his mother, frail and coughing in their small hut. The image of her gasping for breath tormented him more than the chains on his wrists. She was alone now, and he was powerless. He pressed his palms over his face and whispered into the darkness, "Papa, forgive me." His voice cracked like dry wood. "I wanted to keep my promise, but I have failed. I wanted to save Mama, but now I've lost everything. She will die because of me." Tears streamed down his face, soaking his shirt. That night he cried until his body could cry no more. Exhaustion finally dragged him into a restless sleep filled with nightmares. His father's coffin, his mother's frail body, and himself sinking into an endless pit of chains. The following morning, the heavy iron door groaned open with a screech that jolted Joseph awake. He blinked against the sudden light. A group of policemen entered, their boots clanging against the concrete floor. Between them walked a figure Joseph never expected to see again, Chief Amati. The billionaire looked older than he had the night before, his skin pale, his breathing still labored. But his eyes, those eyes, were no longer filled with suspicion or fear. They were soft now, tinged with curiosity, perhaps even gratitude. For a moment, Joseph thought he was dreaming. He scrambled to his feet, chains rattling around his wrists. His throat tightened as shame burned through him. "Why are you here?" Joseph whispered, his voice barely audible. The policeman stepped aside as Chief Amati moved closer to the bars. His gaze lingered on Joseph, studying him as if he were something unfamiliar. Finally, the old man spoke, his tone quiet, steady. "You saved my life." Joseph's mouth went dry. He lowered his head, unable to hold the man's gaze. I didn't mean to be there," he stammered. "I was desperate. I came to steal. But when I saw you struggling, I couldn't let you die." Amati tilted his head slightly. "Why would a thief risk his own freedom to help me? Why not take the money and escape?" Joseph's chest tightened, and suddenly the dam inside him broke. Tears streamed down his face as he fell to his knees before the bars, sobbing. "I am not a thief," he cried. "I swear before God, I am not a thief. I only wanted to save my mother." His voice cracked, raw with pain. "She is all I have. My father died in my arms, begging me to care for her. I promised him, but she is sick. I had nothing left. I begged everyone, but no one would help. I sold everything I had. I even sold my barrow. I didn't know what else to do." His words tumbled out like a flood, unstoppable, carrying years of pain, fear, and humiliation. He told Amati about his father's last words, about the market mockery, about watching his mother waste away in sickness. Each word was like a knife in the air. Slicing through the silence, Amati stood still, his eyes never leaving Joseph. For the first time in his long life, the billionaire saw not a criminal, but a broken son, fighting against poverty, clinging desperately to love. The cell was quiet, save for Joseph's weeping. Finally, Amati's voice broke the silence, low and deliberate. "What do you want from me?" Joseph lifted his tear-streaked face. His lips trembled, his body shaking. He clasped his chained hands together, not as a plea for freedom, but as a prayer. Just save my mother," he whispered. "Don't let her die. That's all I beg of you. Forget me. Forget my life. If she can live, then I will endure anything. Even if I rot here, let her live." The words hung in the air, heavy, sincere. Amati's expression softened. The old man, who had lived a life of luxury surrounded by walls of wealth, felt something shift inside him. In Joseph's eyes, he saw something money could not buy, pure, unselfish love. He stood silently for a moment, then nodded once, firmly. "Consider it done." Joseph's knees buckled. Relief and disbelief flooded him at once. He pressed his forehead against the cold bars, sobbing anew. This time not from despair, but from the fragile spark of hope. Chief Amati turned to leave, his cane tapping against the concrete floor. As he stepped out, his voice echoed back into the cell, calm but powerful. "You are not a thief, Joseph. You are a son, and because you saved me, I will save her." The heavy doors slammed shut behind him, leaving Joseph in darkness again. But now it was a different kind of darkness. Not one of despair, but of waiting for a miracle he dared not hope for before. And for the first time in many years, Joseph lifted his eyes to the ceiling of the cell and whispered, "Thank you, God. Thank you." Morning after Chief Amati's prison visit, a convoy of sleek black cars pulled into Muika village. The villagers gathered, whispering in disbelief, as the billionaire's men entered Joseph's crumbling mud hut and carefully lifted his frail mother onto a stretcher. She was coughing weakly, her eyes half shut, her thin frame trembling. Where are you taking me?" she asked faintly, her voice like the rustle of dry leaves. "To the hospital, Mama," one of the men said gently, on Chief Amati's orders. She tried to protest, but her body had no strength left. For years, she had endured suffering because poverty gave her no choice. Now, as she was carried into the luxury vehicle, tears slipped down her cheeks. She had prayed for a miracle, and suddenly it had come. The hospital they took her to was nothing she had ever seen in her life. White walls gleamed, machines hummed softly. Doctors in crisp uniforms moved with calm assurance. She was given oxygen, medications, and proper food, things she had been denied for years. Slowly, like a dying flame rekindled, her body responded. Her cough eased. Her cheeks, once hollow, began to fill out. The pain that had bent her frame slowly melted away. And every day she whispered one prayer: God, please keep my son alive until I see him again. Meanwhile, Joseph's fate lay in the hands of the law. The police had charged him with armed robbery, one of the heaviest crimes in the land. If convicted fully, he could spend decades behind bars. When Joseph first stood in the courtroom, shackled and weary, shame burned through him like fire. He could not lift his eyes to meet the faces staring at him. Journalists scribbling furiously, strangers whispering, policemen standing stiff. He felt like an outcast, branded forever as a criminal. But Chief Amadi was there. The billionaire sat at the front, dressed in his usual regal attire, his presence commanding the room. Beside him sat the lawyer he had hired for Joseph, one of the finest legal minds in the country, a man who had never lost a case. The trial began. The prosecutor's voice was sharp, accusing. This young man was caught red-handed into Chief Amadi's mansion. A pistol was found in his possession, and money was scattered across the floor. These are the marks of a thief. Society must be protected from such men. Joseph lowered his head as murmurs filled the courtroom. His heart sank with every word. Then came the defense. Chief Amadi's lawyer rose, his voice calm but firm. Your Honor, yes, my client entered the house of Chief Amadi. Yes, he held a weapon. Yes, he touched money. But let us not end the story there. Let us tell the full truth, he turned, pointing at Joseph. This is not a hardened criminal. This is a desperate son, a young man who has lived in poverty all his life, whose mother was dying in a hut while he begged for help and found none. He was broken, not wicked, weak, not malicious. The lawyer paused, then gestured toward Chief Amadi. And who better to testify than the very man he allegedly wronged? A stir swept through the room as the billionaire slowly rose to his feet. The judge's eyes widened. It was not often that a man of Amadi's stature took the stand himself. Leaning on his cane, the old man's voice was steady, filled with emotion. Yes, Joseph broke into my house. Yes, I could have died if not for him. For while others may call him a thief, I call him my savior. On the night he entered my mansion, I was dying on the floor, unable to breathe. He had every reason to run with the money and leave me there. But he didn't. He dropped the gun, he dropped the money, and he saved my life. The courtroom fell silent. Even the prosecutor lowered his eyes. Chief Amadi continued, his voice rising. Is that the heart of a criminal? Or is that the heart of a son who lost his way because life gave him no choice? If I, the victim, can forgive him, then so should the law. Punish him if you must, but do not kill his future. Gasps filled the hall. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Even the stern-faced judge looked shaken. When the judgment was delivered, the atmosphere was tense. Joseph stood trembling, his chains cold against his wrists. The judge's gavel struck. Joseph Chukwudi, this court finds you guilty of breaking and entering, but acknowledges the testimony of Chief Amadi and the circumstances that led to your actions. Instead of the maximum sentence, you are hereby sentenced to 5 months in prison. The courtroom buzzed. It was a miracle. 5 months, where others would have faced decades. Joseph collapsed to his knees, tears streaming. 5 months felt like an eternity, but it was also a second chance. He had expected never to see freedom again, and now he had hope. As guards led him away, Chief Amadi's voice rang out from the front row. Hold on, Joseph. Your story is not over. For Joseph, the prison days crawled like years. Each morning he awoke to the clang of iron doors, to the smell of sweat and decay, to the hopeless chatter of other inmates. But unlike them, he had something to live for. Each week, letters came from his mother, delivered by Chief Amadi's men. They were shaky, written with trembling hands. but filled with love and faith. "My son, don't give up." One letter read, "The doctors say I am healing. I can breathe again without pain. God is rewriting your story, Joseph. The world will not end for us here." Every word lifted him. Every letter gave him the strength to endure the long nights of loneliness and regret. He would close his eyes, clutching the letters to his chest, whispering, "Mama, I will see you again. I will keep the promise, no matter what." And so, in the cold darkness of prison, Joseph's heart held on to the only light he had left, the love of a mother and the hope of redemption. The morning Joseph walked out of prison, the air felt different, sweeter, freer, alive. The sun glowed brighter than he remembered, its golden rays washing over him like a blessing. For months he had only known the suffocating stench of confinement, but now freedom embraced him like an old friend. At the prison gate, his eyes widened. There she was, his mother, standing tall and radiant, healthier than he had seen her in years. Her cheeks, once hollow, were now full of life, her eyes glowing with pride. She rushed forward, tears streaming as she threw her arms around him. "My son, my Joseph," she cried, her voice trembling. "You kept your promise. You came back to me." Joseph clung to her, his tears mingling with hers. "Mama, I thought I'd lost everything. But you're alive. You're strong. God did not abandon us." Standing a few steps away was Chief Amadi, his cane tapping gently against the ground, his eyes soft with admiration. The billionaire's smile carried both gratitude and affection. "Joseph," he said firmly, "I owe you my life. From today, you're not a thief, you're my son." Those words struck Joseph like a thunderbolt. His knees weakened under the weight of grace he did not feel worthy of. He bowed his head, whispering, "Thank you, sir. I will never forget this." True to his word, Chief Amadi gave Joseph a job in one of his companies. No longer did Joseph push a squeaky wheelbarrow in the market. Instead, he wore crisp suits, carried files, and sat in meetings where decisions worth millions were made. His eyes opened to a world he had only ever dreamed about. At first, it was overwhelming. He stumbled over words, confused numbers, and felt out of place among polished staff who whispered about the ex-prisoner. But Chief Amadi was patient, guiding him, mentoring him like a father. Slowly, Joseph learned. He listened more than he spoke, studied more than he slept, and within months he began to rise, proving his worth not just through loyalty, but through diligence and vision. Word spread quickly in the market where Joseph had once been mocked. People who once sneered and called him Joseph the Dreamer now stared in awe when he passed in his polished car. Their whispers had changed. Joseph the Dreamer has become Joseph the Achiever. But success did not harden him. Joseph never forgot the taste of hunger, the sting of ridicule, or the weight of despair. Every weekend he returned to the market, not as a man of pride, but as a man of service. He bought food for widows, paid school fees for orphans, and encouraged young men who dared to dream. To those mocked for dreaming as he once was, he said, "Don't give up." They laughed at me too. But dreams, when watered with faith and hard work, will one day grow into harvest. And in those moments, Joseph knew his father's promise was alive within him. Years had passed, and Joseph's life had transformed beyond anything he could have imagined under the old mango tree in Umwiki Market. No longer the weary boy mocked for his tattered slippers, he was now a man of vision, a leader whose story inspired countless hearts. On a bright Saturday morning, the community gathered before a magnificent new hospital, the Joseph Chikwudi Community Hospital. Its walls gleamed white, its gates wide open, and banners fluttered in the wind. It was not just a building, it was a monument to a promise fulfilled, to dreams once mocked but now realized. In the front row sat Chief Amadi, dressed in a flowing agbada, clapping proudly. Beside him, Joseph's mother stood at the ribbon, her once frail body now strong, her eyes wet with tears of joy. The villagers who had once ridiculed Joseph filled the crowd, their faces lit with admiration. Children waved small flags with Joseph's name on them, chanting, "Joseph the Dreamer, Joseph the Achiever." Joseph stepped forward, dressed in a simple but elegant suit. He didn't want to look like a man of pride, but like a man of purpose. He looked at his mother, at the villagers, at the crowd who once laughed at him, and he smiled. Taking the microphone, he began softly, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Once I was just a boy pushing a rusty wheelbarrow in the market. Once I was mocked as Joseph the Dreamer. I was so desperate, I nearly lost myself. At my lowest, I was called a thief, but life gave me a second chance. The crowd listened in silence, every word piercing hearts. Joseph continued, dreams do come true, but not through shortcuts. They come through courage, sacrifice, faith, and a heart that refuses to give up. My father died in my arms, begging me to care for my mother. And today, his voice broke as he turned toward her. I can finally say I kept that promise. The crowd erupted in applause. His mother, tears streaming down her face, stepped forward and cut the ribbon with trembling hands. The sound of cheers and drumming filled the air as the hospital doors opened for the first time. Joseph lifted his hand to quiet the crowd. I vow today that no child in this community will suffer as I once did. No mother will lose her life because of poverty. This hospital belongs to you all. It is proof that dreams, no matter how small, can change the world. The people roared, some weeping openly. Chief Ahmadi's eyes glistened with pride, like a father watching his son come of age. And in that moment, Joseph felt a peace he had never known. He looked to the sky, whispering, Papa, I did it. I kept my promise. The dreamer had become the doer, and his story would be remembered for generations. We truly hope you enjoyed this inspiring story. Please share your thoughts and lessons in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. And guess what? Another powerful story is coming in just a few days, so make sure to subscribe and turn on your notification bell to be the first to watch. Don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and family. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.